Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at @itchjessino and live player ratings for Arsenal 2, Manchester United 3. What a game, what a game, what a game, what a game, what a game. What a game. So, look, it's disappointing. I think mostly just because we know that Man United was there for the taking and we had an opportunity to jump into the fourth spot. Um, I think what makes it worse is knowing that that was not a good Manchester United team, and I thought for parts of the game we were better in that second half in particular. I think once we got that first goal, we sat off in the first half, but that second half, I thought we were the better team, and had Odegaard not given up that penalty, we would have walked away with at least a point, and I think it would have been fair if we had gotten a point from that game. And I think the one thing that I think about the most is every single game that goes by, it's really obvious what we're missing. We're definitely missing a striker, and we're definitely missing a midfielder or two. And people will look at the defense and say, why did they give up 3 goals? But in reality, without a midfield that can keep the ball, which they did a terrible job of doing in that first half, I thought that was the majority of the reason why we couldn't keep the ball is because our midfield was non-existent. Then your defense is going to give up goals. There's just no way that they can defend for so long patches of the game like that. So for me, the narratives will keep going that we can't beat any of the top 6 teams. We're not competitive against them. The reality is that we were competitive against a Manchester United team that's supposed to be significantly better than us. We were more than competitive, and I thought we played poorly and still were in that game. So there are some positives to take from it, but it hurts really badly because that was a really bad Man United side and they didn't really deserve the win and we kind of gave it to them. But we're going to do our player ratings, and see what you guys think. But this is the time to react, feel how you want to feel, and then tomorrow we'll talk about how we move forward, because again, we could go into the Everton game, win that, and we're back on track, but it's just not great. But there's about 50 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. And I have Souls here. Hey, Souls.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So, were Manchester United as bad as you thought they were going to be? Were they better than you thought they were going to be? Did you think we were worse than you imagined? What did you think before the game? And who do you tell me if I'm deluded or not, but do you think that we were the better team in the second half and probably should have buried a couple more chances? For some reason, I just feel like we were the better team in that second half and we just kind of gave it away with that penalty. What did you think?
Yeah, I think we were on the ascendancy before that. Obviously, Odegaard mistake happened. I mean, it's weird. It's annoying because obviously because of that penalty, I think it tarnished the good he did as well. I'm going to try and be as balanced as I can because I think he set up Martinelli for a really good chance that could have put the game to bed. Obviously, Martinelli kind of scuffed it on his weaker foot, and Aubameyang had a few moments where he should have scored. Saka had a few chances that he should have scored. The problem has always gone into we can't finish. We get to that point, and then it feels like something lets us down. And I think with Saka's opportunities, it was more due to the fact that he wasn't in the right positions. And then when we look at Man United, for example, they did exactly what I expected them to do, kind of just bide their opportunities and counter. And that's exactly what they did. They held up. They knew we were going to come for them. They knew on the ball we're better than them and we can play around them. So what they did was just try to be as solid as they could, absorb the pressure, and then hit on the break, which they did superbly. Even, to be fair, this was probably Bruno's best game against the so-called top 6. And this was the game that played into his hands where he had a lot of space. We allowed him to play those over-the-top balls or through the lines, and that really put them or put us under the caution. I don't think El Neni really did his job as good as he should have. So I think parts of the areas I'm like, okay, we did what I expected us to do. We were competitive, which is what I expected. I expected Martinelli to cause a lot of issues, which he did. But then it just came down to, I expected more from El Neni and Partey because I thought El Neni would be the deeper player, but it just was such a disjointed press Elneny was seemingly on his own wavelength and Partey was on his own wavelength. And every time we got the ball, it seemed both players didn't really know what the other player was going to do. And that's the issue when you don't play with each other after such a long time as a partnership anyway. This is what's going to happen. And I think maybe the play should have been just stick to that midfield partnership that you've stuck to, whether that was Sambi or whether you bring Ainsley into it and not bring Elneny for a big game like this. So, look, there's a lot to be discussed, but at the same time, there was a lot of positives. I know it sounds bizarre to say, but I thought it was a 50-50 game for me.
Yeah, I feel like that's how I feel. I don't feel and I get it. We lost a game that was there for the taking against our biggest rivals. Like, as an Arsenal fan, Manchester United is your main rival. Spurs are not. They're there. But Manchester United are definitely it. And they were there for the taking. And of course, they'll look at this as like, we just got a result. It's great and all of that. But we literally handed it to them, and silly mistakes as well. When you look at, I think it was the first goal. I think the clearance from Ben White wasn't good. I think he cleared it straight to one of them, and then they passed it, and then they scored, and then obviously Odegaard gave them the third goal. So I know that their front four are devastating and really good, but ultimately, like, it wasn't a scintillating Manchester United, and it wasn't the best Arsenal I've ever seen. But like, geez, like, did we have to give it away? And that composure, and maybe if there was some more, I guess we'll get on it, like senior players that could get a grip on the game and keep us from capitulating. We walk away from that game playing terribly, but with a draw. And that's kind of what we need to get to. We need to play, if we're going to play shit, at least leave with a point against teams that don't deserve the win. I don't think Manchester United did much to really win that game, so it's one of those, and we still have a lot of ways to go. I see a lot of negativity pointed towards Arteta and that he didn't go for the game, or he didn't, put the right people out there or something. To be quite honest, I don't know how it's Arteta's fault that, he's been saying for weeks that he doesn't tell the team to sit off after they score a goal. We naturally go into a shell, and I think that comes from not having experienced players out there. I think we're kind of like, oh shit, we're ahead, we want to protect it instead of keep going. But there's a lot of negativity pointed towards Mikel. Where do you think, in terms of was there something different you wanted to see from Mikel? Do you think that it's a greater issue, like going away to these big teams? It's the scared mentality, that weak mentality trickles down from him, or do you think it's just a lack of experience and we'll build that over time?
I think it's a quality issue. Unfortunately, right, I know we don't like this specific player in Granit Xhaka, but you can tell a huge difference, especially in games like this where Elneny doesn't play, so bringing him into a game like this was always going to be an issue where he doesn't really understand the way we now play, because the way we played last season to the way we play now is totally different. We set up in a 5-back formation, whereas now we're playing this 4-2-3-1, a little bit more fluid. Transitions are different, and he's not really played in the system before, so it's very difficult to become part of the system when everyone else knows what their role is. And this whole thing of making Partey a deeper player, and then now just switching into right now you're going to become the ball progressor. It's not easy for every player just to be able to make those transitions straight away. I don't know how much I can blame on Arteta, because I think a lot of that game, I've seen enough passages to suggest that we should have taken this game. Opportunities were missed for me. Martinelli had a good opportunity. Saka had two. Yeah, Saka had 2 brilliant opportunities. Aubameyang had an abundance of opportunities he could have scored. And then the only other decisions that kind of didn't make sense to me was Partey was on a free kick when Odegaard should have taken it for me. That didn't make any sense to me. And you know what? One thing, I'm so disappointed one of those set pieces didn't go in, because they were literally inches from going in. And I just think it's easy to blame Mikel because, well, if you blame Mikel, everyone just agrees. It's just like we're not going to question that. Actually, you talk sense because Mikel is because there's an agenda against him. But if you're really going to question it, you've got to question Aubameyang. You have to question Partey in this game. And I think they are the two that are probably, because they're the senior players, they're the ones who are meant to carry us. Martinelli did his job for a youngster. Elneny did his job for the player he is, but I don't think he covered himself in glory either. And then when you look at ESR, he tried to make things happen. Oh, I mean, Odegaard, bar the penalty, I think he had an okay game in my opinion. But it's the senior players, once again, letting this team down. And I'm getting to the point where, do we just go, screw it? Let's just play every single youngster week in, week out. Let's just play Martinelli up there until we get a striker, and we just change this completely and forget about sentiment, forget about who the captain is, and that's the question Arteta needs to answer. What does he now do? Because he hooked Aubameyang. That is hooking a player because he missed that chance and he was like, "Nah, I've had enough of this. You're off."
Yeah, I mean, everything is always in hindsight, and what I really want to know from people that feel like Arteta was to blame for that, what could he have done different to make Thomas Partey keep the ball? What could he have done different to make, Odegaard had scored the goal and it started to really start to influence the game in the second half. Why is it like, how is Arteta at fault for him to go back there and get the penalty? I understand that we don't play with bravery, but maybe he's not getting his ideas across to them. But he says that he doesn't tell them to sit off. He said that so many times. So it's something that they're naturally doing. And it might be because the players out there with the biggest influence on the team are transmitting that nervous energy. It may be coming from the players in midfield. It might be coming from, players deciding to pass back instead of go forward. I mean, we went down 2-1 and then came back, which I've never really seen us do that before. I've never
Within
seen us
4
do that
minutes.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
within
within
4
4
minutes, I
minutes.
was mad.
So it's easy to blame Arteta because we do give him a lot of praise when things go right. But
Do you know
I
what was
don't
a
know.
clear difference? It was when United went down. All right, given the circumstances, yes, and the opposing team is going to be pissed if you concede like that. But it was the way that Bruno reacted, the way that Ronaldo reacted, the way that, because I'm not going to lie, Rashford didn't react until Ronaldo reacted, until Bruno reacted. McTominay didn't react until, Fred really stepped his game up. And when you look at United's team, the senior players really push their younger players to go like, right, come on, lads, let's go for this. Tellez's game just exceeded his expectations. I'm not going to say he had a poor start, but the way that he started to end that game was like, yeah, Maguire was telling him now, let's pump this up now because we need to win this. And I think that's the difference. I don't see Partey being, it's not even about animation, but it's about actually commanding your players. I didn't see Aubameyang go, when he went 2-1 down, pumping the players. It was the young players taking that initiative, and I think that's where the issue lies. When you look at Chelsea, it's the senior players like Jorginho will carry that team and really get the team riled up again, or Thiago Silva, or, if Lukaku's on the pitch, he does that. And I think that's kind of what the issue comes down to, is we don't have a senior leader or a senior commanding leader anyway. And it's Gabriel doing that job, Ben White doing that job. And we need Partey to step up, or we need Aubameyang to actually be the captain that he needs to be.
Yeah, I know. I hear you, and I'm looking at what people are kind of saying online because I'm trying to figure out where the blame is really coming from. I think people are upset about the substitutions and stuff. So we'll talk about that towards the back end of the show. But there's about 130 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Somebody in the comments, I think it was Onyx, made an interesting point that Ronaldo scored a penalty to win the game against us, and we're still in fifth. So we're not out just yet. So for me, I maintain before we even started that I'm going to be upset, but I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That team has 3 or 4 game winners in it, and we know we don't have that in our team. That's very, very obvious. So we're still a little bit of ways, but we'll talk about it. But Ramsdale, let's start off with him. I don't think he had much to do in terms of like big saves or anything like that. I think for the most part, the 2 goals that they scored in open play were just nicely worked goals where the man was wide open and put it in the back of the net. His distribution was actually really good. I thought that the back line, the back five, again, like there's always going to be like, oh, we let in 3 goals, so it must be the defense. I'm telling you right now, it's the midfield and their inability to keep the ball. But I thought Ramsdale was just fine. But, it's like, well, even though I don't think any of the goals are really his fault, you can't give him a really good score because he didn't really make a lot of saves. So I'm just going to give him a 6, because it just is what it is, right? Are you okay with the 6?
Yeah, I was going to agree. I was going to say he had nothing to really do. I can't fault him for the goals because it wasn't like he fumbled the ball and they scored from that. It wasn't any of that. It was just more he was left open and exposed because the ball was played into an open goal basically. So yeah, I can't blame him. I think 5 or 6 would do like a standard average scoreline.
Yeah, for sure. So we can move on from that. So let's go to Tomiyasu. I think beyond Martinelli, he was the best player on the pitch for us. I thought he shut down Sancho for the majority of the game, and he was relatively unfazed. Even in buildup, he was fine. We know that he's not going to give us like that really offensive, like that's really not his thing, but he put in some decent crosses, and I thought him and Martinelli were fine on that side. So I'm actually going to give Tomiyasu I'm going to give him a 7.5.
Yeah, I was going to say 7.5. I thought he was defensively superb again. I can't remember what Sancho actually did in that game in terms of causing us a real threat. Even in terms of just Telles as well. Like he even shut Telles down a few times when he played. Do you know what? Actually, there is one thing I need to applaud him on, which was his recovery run to block. Who did he? Was Bruno's goal? Bruno, where I think it was Rashford that ran in, and then it was passed to Bruno, and then Tomiyasu blocked that like literally near the end of the game. That was incredible recovery pace. So yeah, no, 7.5 definitely for him.
Yeah, for sure. I just read something. I mean, everybody's out for blood right now. It's really, really crazy. Like I cannot wait to get off the internet, and watch like a nice Christmas movie because some people are really losing their whole minds right now. But
that's why I've not even looked at Twitter.
Yeah, let's go on to Ben White. So I thought in possession he was really good. He made one mistake that really led to the first goal. I thought that first goal that they scored was really because we were really lackadaisical. We had gotten into that sleepy defensive mode that we do when we score a goal. And then the ball came in, and instead of clearing it hard and way out, he kind of cleared it straight into the path of Sancho, and then they went on to score. Beyond that, I thought he was good, but had we got into the half at 1-0 up, the game could have probably been different. So I'm actually going to give he was good in possession, but he had that one mistake. So I'm going to give him a 5. You think that's fair? You think a little bit lower, or?
No, because he played a brilliant ball into Aubameyang, who should have
Yeah,
squared it to Tavares, and that would have been a definite goal. But I don't know what Aubameyang's doing nowadays. But yeah, no, I think I was thinking more 5, 6. So yeah, I do agree with that score because you bar that one mistake. I don't think he was defensively good today. I think it was more his on ball. There was a driving run that he did where he could have released the ball sooner, but it was more his defensive side was not great. I think he was getting bullied a bit as well. But yeah, no, I think 5 is fair because defensively poor, but on the ball pretty decent. So yeah.
All right. So let's go to Gabriel. Relatively flawless game. I think he made just like one mistake, but it didn't lead to anything. It was towards the back end of the game, and we retrieved the ball. El Neni passed it to him, and he hurriedly tried to pass the ball into space to somebody, and then they came back down on us. But I don't think, again, I think this goes back into the midfield. I don't think the back line did much wrong. They get into this mode where the midfield decides, we're not going to keep the ball. We're not going to get it up the pitch. We're not going to engage. And then the back line is meant to defend. players constantly coming at them and waves of pressure. So for me, and Gabriel also almost scored a goal. I really think the midfield is letting these boys down, but I'm going to give Gabriel, I'm going to give him a 7.
Ooh, that's higher than me. Now I was going to give him a 6 because I think I don't. It's so hard actually because he did so well because even like Ronaldo was getting through on goal pretty much one-on-one a few times, and it's the way he holds players up to then get him a foul and get that free kick. But I felt those moments in that game where Gabriel was let down by his teammates in a sense of every time he had a ball, he had no options to pass to. So he was having to get in front of the man, hold the ball off, and it just kind of ruined the flow of the game because we could have then maybe made something happen. But I'd say 6.5 for me.
Okay, so 6.5. That's fair enough. Nuno Tavares. I think he played the game that has maybe introduced Kieran Tierney back into the team. I don't think Tavares was terrible, but I think some of his decision making was bad. And after the mistake that he made, I think that led to their second goal. It wasn't really, it was like a weird one where the anticipation was
Yeah.
perfect
Oh
and he
yeah.
passed
Yeah.
it to ESR, and then ESR couldn't do anything with it, and they pressed us and went down the pitch and went right down into the corner. It's that, like, that risk that he takes, the reward is sometimes there, but it usually isn't because nobody, how do I explain it? If we could take advantage of some of the risks that he takes, it would be great. But because we can't, and then they came right back down and scored a goal, it was rough. So for me, Nuno, I think he's so good, but I think he left the door crack for Kieran to come back in. So I'm gonna give him a 5.
I think that was an anticipation move. I think they expected Wan-Bissaka to be playing, and I think he would have cooked Wan-Bissaka. But obviously, they went with Dallo, who basically played the perfect game to kind of mitigate the mitigate the threat that Tavares offers. But I think he had an all right game. I think he was attackingly very good, but obviously, bar that little stumble that he had. Um, it's hard because I don't think he was as bad. I think he was probably on level with everyone else. I'm giving him a 6.
Okay, cool. All right, let's get on to the real issue here. That midfield that decided not to play in the first half. Yeah, so let's start off with Thomas Partey. I think he's been very on the edge for the last 2 games. Against Liverpool, kind of gave him a pass because the entire team was bad and who he was playing next to and la-di-da-di-da, coming back off of injury. Against Newcastle, he didn't have a great game. He was just kind of in the periphery, didn't really do much, but we know he was playing a 6 role and all of this. Today, I really think that he let us down massively. He was one of the biggest reasons why we won at Old Trafford last season. And this season, he didn't give us that same performance. He was really loose on the ball early. He was just slow and off it, and even in the first half, I thought El Neni was making better passes than him. It took Thomas Partey until we went down in the second half to start playing, and it's too late by then. I don't know what's going on with him, but he can't wait for Granit Xhaka to get back. He can't just be like, "Oh, El Neni, are you going to do it for me? So and so, are you going to do it for me?" It took him way too long to get in between the lines. Like, it was just, I don't know what's going on with him. I can't defend him today. I really, really can't. He was good for the goal that we scored in the second half, but I mean, let's be real. Like, that's not good enough. You can't show up halfway through the game or for a quarter of the game. I have to give Thomas Partey a 3. I have to give him a 3. One for putting on the shirt. The second one for being a part of the second goal, and the third one for, I don't know, just because I like him. Like, I don't know. Like, I thought he was really, really bad today. Do you have a different idea on him, or what's going
Oh
on
no,
here?
I I think the reason why I'm a little bit worried about it is because it seems to be that every time there's somewhat of a press against him and players really swarm him, he doesn't seem to have the composure anymore, and he seems to be very lackluster on the ball, holds it for too long, and he seems to be like, oh no, I've got all the time in the world, as if he's still in La Liga mode. And I think he needs to realize this is the Premier League. You're not going to get the time, the luxury to make a decision, and he needs to really release the ball sooner sometimes. And I think that's kind of where the issue is. If midfielders like El Neni, Sambi, Ainsley are outperforming you every single time you play with them, that's a concern, because you're meant to be the one that's leading them, not the other way around. And I think because the thing is, I can't keep saying that when we get that midfielder, we'll see the Partey, because I need to see it now as well. I need to see something from him. And the issue is, I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing him take a game and go, right, this is my game. I'm yet to see a Thomas Partey, this is the Partey game that you need to look at. And I think that's kind of where my issue is. And I think I kind of agree. I was thinking like 2-3 as well, because I was like, I can't remember what he did. Like, genuinely, other than a plethora of giving the ball away, I can't remember what he actually did to influence this game in any way.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't Thiago and Fabinho. This is Fred and McTominay. They're not good. They're not good. And Thomas is not really, he needed to step up today. I think if he steps up in that 20 minutes where after we score the goal, we don't give up, like we start to turn things over and keep going. And we're missing senior influences in big positions on the pitch. And then maybe you can even say that some of the inexperience from Arteta is hurting us as well. But when you pay 200 and something grand a week to a midfielder like that, he really has to do better. And he really let us down today. So yeah, I think a 2 or 3 is perfectly fine. Zamir says, thank you so much for your super chat. Zamir says, we really need a striker. This Aubameyang has become a dinosaur right now. Yeah, no, I hear you. We're going to get onto Aubameyang. And again, I know, okay, so this is definitely the reaction, but every time that we play these games, it becomes more and more obvious what the issues are. And striker and midfield need to be addressed probably in January, because we had an opportunity to go fourth. And now we've invited a lot of pressure onto us from Manchester United and Tottenham. And one false move against Everton or one of these smaller teams, and we can be somewhere around 7th or 8th again. So if Arteta has any chance of getting us into Europe this season, they need to move some of these glaring issues up into the January transfer window, because we're not going to make it. Like we're not going to make it with what we have now. They're not stepping up, but we'll get on to the striker. There's about 160 of you guys watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Solo says, Partey is not an 8. You guys keep saying he loses it when pressed. He needs to sit in the 6. No, I mean, he is an 8. Fundamentally, he is a number 6. He's not that. And so for me, like when people think of an 8, they think, okay, well, they're an attacking 8, somebody like a Tielemans. An 8 is anybody from a Thomas Partey to a Tielemans box-to-box player, really, So for me, he is an 8, he is an 8, but he's loose on the ball. And a lot of this is recency bias. There was times last season where we saw him evade pressure, where he was good when he was pressed. Some games he was press resistant. Against Man United last season, he was. So he has those things in his locker. He's just very inconsistent at the moment. I can't figure out what it is.
Do you know what it is?
Constant injuries. Go ahead.
No, I think when you really think about it, Granit Xhaka doesn't let you, even though he's silly at times, right? And he makes that Odegaard mistake, but he ensures the team doesn't sleep and that it's fully concentrated. Because even if you look at the Spurs performance, and that's the only game we can really judge Granit Xhaka on, because it was the actual game where most of the players were available as well. And in that game, the reason why we did so well in that first half was because as soon as we scored, Granit Xhaka was like, another one. And he was like constantly telling the players that this isn't the only thing. And I think that's kind of what Partey is missing, is someone just to keep him on his toes. It's a little bit like I always compare it to the Puyol PK situation where, Barcelona scored and PK was celebrating and Puyol goes, get back and defend. And I think that's what Granit Xhaka is to Partey. Granit Xhaka is the one telling him, this isn't it. We need to go for another one. And then that's when it goes in Partey's head that actually we need to go for another one. Whereas with he's not telling Partey to do that.
I think a bigger conversation that we probably should have is we misprofiled Thomas Partey all the time in terms of what kind of midfielder he is, but maybe we've also misprofiled him as some sort of midfield giant that we're going to have. He may just end up being a good to very good midfielder for us, and we still need to buy a marquee midfielder. We may have spent the 45 million on Thomas Partey, but I'm starting to think beyond him. And so if he's going to be unreliable, what do we need to bring in? That's why I've changed my mind from one midfielder to two, because he may never be reliable. And I hate to say that, but I'm not sure what's going on with him. Tony says, Fred was trying to win us the game. Partey and Elneny get most of the blame. Again, Fred and McTominay were not good. The game was won and lost in the midfield, and our midfield didn't even step onto the pitch until after we went down 2-1. So that's unacceptable, really. Do you think it was harsh to drop Sambi?
Hindsight's easy, though, isn't it, to answer that question? I think it is, because he had a phenomenal game, But I don't. Would he have done better than I don't really know, because to be honest with you, I'm thinking about it and I'm like, the only player really I think that should have come in is probably Ainsley, just because we had no control, and I don't think Sambi gives you control. That's where, and it's like we don't really have, bar maybe Granit Xhaka, we don't have another midfielder that can do that, other than Partey being on his game gives us control, or Granit Xhaka. Every other midfielder kind of comes in to support whatever midfielder they're playing with. So it's like, does Sambi also get cooked in a game like this? Because I think Elneny did fine, but it was Partey letting Elneny down in this game. I know that sounds mad, but obviously we're going to get into Elneny anyway. But I think yes and no. It's a bit of a, well, we don't know.
Yeah, like what Mikey B is saying, Elneny never takes responsibility. I think that's because he's just not that player. Partey needs a leader next to him. He needs somebody leading him. He's not going to be able to lead our midfield. He's a pass when things are not going right, he can't get a hold of it. And the types of mentality players that we bought this past summer is probably not what we did with Thomas Partey. I don't know what we were doing, but he needs somebody else next to him, and probably Sambi will replace him quickly. If we get in a leader, a better midfielder, Sambi will replace Thomas quickly if he keeps doing this. I mean, it's a madness what he did today. Elneny, I think the thing is, like, a lot of people had this thing with Elneny that this was going to be the reason why we lose the game and all of that. I don't think Elneny really did much but do what he always does. I think he was relatively clean on the ball. He nipped in when he needed to, but he doesn't really add much, so he just was kind of there. And I thought that his role was supposed to be letting Thomas go forward, but Thomas really didn't do much until the second half. So I can't be harsh on Elneny when I don't really think that he's a great player. So I don't have high expectations for him. I don't know if Ainsley Maitland-Niles does a better job. I do think it was harsh on Sambi. So I'm just going to give Elneny a 4. I don't have very many expectations for him, but I don't think he was like terrible. I just think he was okay.
I think it should have been Elneny Sambi if you look at it, because I think Sambi would have done the progressive job better. And then putting him next to maybe Elneny would have probably been the fairer play to do, especially if you're looking on form. Look, Elneny, I've always said it, Elneny is just a boring player who makes the game boring, and he just does the sidewards passing to try and open up an opportunity for someone else to make that opportunity open up. And I think that's just what you got with him. He's a £7 million midfielder, and he does the job of a £7 million midfielder. And I think he wasn't the worst on the pitch. I think he did what we all expected. I don't think he got the assist as well. So there's a bonus, I guess, for the ESR goal. But yeah, Like it was just a standard performance. I don't think he made a huge error. I think there was actually moments where he pressed well. So I'd say maybe a 4-5 for him. There's nothing. He did nothing special, but did nothing bad. So you can't really give him anything lower than just a down the middle scoreline of like maybe a 4 or a 5.
Yeah, for sure. All right,
Mm.
Odegaard, the hero and the
Definitely.
villain. I mean, I thought in the first half he was just like every other midfielder, either hiding or very bad in possession. You know, he gave up the ball quite a bit. Thomas Partey gave up the ball quite a bit, and I was really disappointed in the two of them, to be honest. He did help create a couple of chances with Martinelli on that right hand side in the first half, so that's a part of his job. But again, it wasn't until we went down in the second half where the midfield started actually showing up, and yeah, so for me, Odegaard, he was so good for that goal. And had he not given up the penalty, I think we would have given him such a higher score. You know, it's just so unfortunate, but he's done that a couple of times. If you go back and watch some of our previous matches, Odegaard tends to do silly things in our box when he's been exposed defensively. This isn't the first time I've seen him do it. It's the first time I've seen him get caught. And so he ruins so much good play by making a bonehead move. There's no way to look around it and make it is what it is. It was dumb, you know. So for me, he scored a goal. He showed up a little bit in that second half and then kind of shot us in the foot. A point really would have done us well today. I have to give him a 5.
I was gonna say I think bar the penalty, I actually think he had a pretty good game. Um, especially that moment that he created that chance for Martinelli. I think there were moments in that game where he helped. The thing with Odegaard, I think when you watch the game again, you realize actually how much more he does for the team. I think in the moment, because he's given the ball away, or the issue with Odegaard is he's showing flashes of what he can offer this team in terms of the way he moves with the ball before he makes a pass actually helps us keep the ball. But then it's just that decisiveness. So, and I think it's maybe acclimatizing to the Premier League because the pressure of the Premier League to when he played for Betis and when he played for Real Sociedad and the little stint that he had for Real Madrid, it's totally different to playing in the Premier League. The Premier League is unique to the Premier League, and you're never going to be able to recreate those scenarios in any other league until for many years, in my opinion. And I think he showed flashes, but he wasn't consistently good, and I think that's where the issue comes in. I think some of his corner taking today was actually quite bang on the money, and I think he should have taken the free kick instead of Partey, and that might have been something threatening there. But some of his deliveries were brilliant. I think and he got obviously a goal, helped us get a goal as well. So it's tough, man. It is a 4 for me because I think that penalty was beyond stupid. It wasn't even like, oh, I get it. You needed to make that tackle, otherwise it was a certain goal. It was just, what the fuck? Why did you do that? Why? Because there was nothing in my head that it wasn't like a goal line clearance where he went for a goal line clearance and he accidentally hit into Fred. And I'd be like, all right, fair enough. He just dropped down. The ball was nowhere near him. He had his legs bent, so he knew he's taking the player out. It was just everything was wrong with that tackle, and I was like, why now? When he just got the goal, and secondly, why are you there? Like I know we go deep, and I know we play that way, but I just sometimes I'd rather have a number 10 that's just like Özil who just doesn't want to defend because sometimes attacking players don't make good defenders, especially not in your own box.
I think the issue is that we still have yet to recruit a number 10 with true presence. I think Odegaard needs everybody else to be doing all the other work, and then we just allow him to be free. And we don't
That's the
have
issue.
that. We don't have a strong enough team for that. We don't have a striker that can knock the ball down to him. We don't have really strong wingers that can find him. Because often what I saw was ESR and Martinelli dribbling into the abyss until they just went out the end line or went out the sideline because there was no presence from anybody centrally to give them anything. They waited until the second half to do anything. So I think Odegaard fails just a little bit more because it's a profile that we already knew he was, but we don't have enough around him to make it okay for him to be somewhat of a passenger. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't press and try and all that. I didn't think that he was like not, I don't think he wasn't trying. I just think had he not given up the penalty and you take that out, I think what
Oh,
you
he
say
has a
about,
phenomenal. Yeah, I think he had
yeah,
a brilliant game.
yeah, I think you're like, okay, in the second half, he really came to life. He really helped us connect, and he got a goal and he stepped up and all of that. So a lot of it is coming from that penalty that he gave up, but he still needs more presence, or we need a stronger midfield and a stronger striker to be able to win the ball and give it to him and win it back and give it to him. Right now, we need 11 players winning the ball right now, and we have about like 4 or 5 that can actually win it. So we'll see what happens, but I don't think
Yeah.
Odegaard was our biggest issue, but I think he did hurt us a little bit, especially with the penalty.
Mm.
All right, ESR scored a goal. I'm glad he kicked it in the back of the net so that they could look at it from a VAR perspective. Had he not, I mean, if we could just talk about like De Gea was pathetic for what he did. I mean, he basically went down because he assumed an Arsenal player had fouled him, took himself out of the game, crumbled to the ground. And then I'm so glad we played, like we just kept playing and kicked it in the back of the net so VAR could look at it. So I'm happy that he did that. But if I'm really honest with you, I don't think he had a great game. I think he was sloppy on the ball. But I also think that goes back to our wing players being pinned to the sidelines. He didn't have that same ferocity that Martinelli had. Martinelli was getting away from them because he has that, but ESR shied away from it a little bit. And because there was nobody centrally showing feed, Partey was non-existent and Odegaard was non-existent, especially in the first half. It made ESR kind of like, and he kept dribbling and then he lost it. And the pass is never obvious. When ESR was getting it in the first half, I looked at him and I just thought, where's his pass? Like, where is the next pass that he's going to get it? He's receiving it and there's nobody to pass it to. So, and I think that goes with players not being brave and the midfield kind of shying away from the battle in that first half. But he did get a goal. He didn't really do much. I thought Dallo pretty much corralled him for the entire game. So I have to give ESR a 5.
Yeah, I think you're bang on there. I think part of the issue is ESR's now going through what Saka went through, or is still going through, where I feel like there is a bit of double teaming going on, where they know how good he is on the ball. But the issue is the way that ESR progresses the ball, it's more of a power run rather than a dribble, or like a very close controlled dribble, like a. And I'll kind of draw the comparison to Martinelli because I feel like that'll make more sense to what I'm saying. Is ESR is more of a power runner on the ball, whereas with Martinelli he's got a bit more of grace on the ball, where at a moment's notice he can make a turn. And even when you look at it near the end, where he was double teamed, but then he did that little like flip flop kind of thing where he flicked it between the two players and still had the ball. And I thought that was a brilliant piece of skill. But that's where ESR now needs to learn how to do that. So, and I think that's kind of where the big difference comes in. But I think it was a poor game. I'm not even going to sit there and lie. And by the way, yeah, United fans can suck on that one because for far long, right, they get so many decisions going their way, and we're meant to show class. I don't get this new thing of why don't Arsenal show sportsmanship. Your player started acting. That's not my fault. It's not my player's fault. Fred fouled your own player. Do you know what? The only way I'd ever feel sorry if he went out on a stretcher and had the hospital and he's out. Like, for example, what Pickford did to Van Dijk. That would have to happen for me to be like, all right, yes, show them sportsmanship and let them score one. But yeah, I think ESR did brilliantly to take advantage of that. And bar the goal, I actually would give him a 3, but because of the goal, I'd give him a 4.
Yeah, it's one of those where he just really wasn't great, and then yeah, but when you talk about the other side and you talk
Ooh.
about Martinelli, that is what we've been missing. We've been missing players that individually can make things happen. Martinelli in a couple of years, maybe even by the end of the season, is a game changer, a game winner for us. On the other end, they had Bruno and Ronaldo, two players that no matter how bad they played, because don't get it twisted, you guys, United were shit. They were bad. They will take this and say, we were great and we were this and we're on the road to recovery, but they were shit and we should have won that game. But when you have players in your team that can put the ball in the back of the net and make things happen out of nowhere, you have something special. And we don't have any players like that on our team. And the only player that we had in that respect to me on the pitch today was Martinelli. I think he did things in the first half that got us up the pitch where ESR shied away and kind of let Dallo get the ball from him. Martinelli went past Tellez. He went into the channels and he made things happen, got us corners. And he, in the second half, he made a nuisance of himself. He was pressing everybody in. We don't have enough players like that. We need at least 2 or 3 more players like Martinelli with that same ferocity and let them off the chains and let them do things. On another day, Martinelli scores a goal. I think he got into the box and hit it with his left. On another day, he puts that in the back of the net. And I think he can lead this game with his head up high. Like he really showed something off of that right-hand side. And doesn't matter if he plays off of the left through the center or on the right-hand side, he needs to play from here on out. We don't have, like, especially when we start talking about Aubameyang until January, Martinelli needs to play more. He just does. Because if he gets more playing time, he's going to score goals for us. And I think, again, on another day, he scores a winner for us. But that kid, he was so good. And he didn't play like a kid. He really didn't. Like, he was not afraid to be playing against Manchester United at Old Trafford, where in that first half, I think there were a couple of players that had decided, you know what, this might just be too much for me. So for me, I'm going to give Martinelli an 8. He has nothing to be sad about. He was good. He just needed a goal. And he'll get those goals if he plays more.
Yeah, and this is the point I was making when people were obviously criticizing Arteta for not playing him, and I said when you look at even the moments he plays, like whether it's a 5 minute skint here, 10, 15, whatever it may have been, you could see how much more polished up he's getting. And this game, I think, showed the work that's been done off the pitch. Like even his pressing for me has massively improved. Before he was just like, when you let a dog and just go, yeah, attack that person with the ball. That's what you used to do. But now Martinelli's pressing for me is a lot more smarter with the way he does it. And I feel like now he can sustain that sort of performance for 90 minutes. Whereas before, what you'd see is he'll do it for like maybe 60 minutes of the game and then really his performance start fluctuating a little bit. And I think even his on-board dribbling and the little skills that he can do, how quick his feet have become, I feel like he's a player with a lot of confidence that clearly believed in the coaching Arteta's doing with him. And his decision-making spot on, like he's passing it first time. He's able to use his left foot now, and there was a moment where he drove with the ball and he passed it to Aubameyang. For me, I think Aubameyang should have laid it off first time back to him, and that would have been a guaranteed goal. So I think those goals will come. And for me, and I've said it, I think it was off camera. I don't know if I said it on the stream, but I think just scrap it. Go with drop Aubameyang, put Martinelli up there, Saka on one side, ESR on the other, and then whoever else you want to play. Because for me, that's the way you've got to do it. That front three is so dynamic. It's so two-footed. It's got everything you need to really impact games. And that's for me. I think Martinelli was arguably the best player, bar maybe Tellez tonight. And I think from both teams. So I'm giving him a 9. Bar a goal, he had a near on perfect performance.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like, we're just not quite there yet. And for me personally, you guys, like, if we don't finish in the top 6 at the very least, I think Arteta has to go. But when I'm looking at the team, I'm looking more beyond Arteta, and any manager is going to need a striker in this team. Any manager is going to need new midfielders. Any manager is going to struggle with this group of players without that. But there may be a little bit of variance there because Arteta made some mistakes. So I'm not saying that Arteta is fully off scot-free. But what I am saying is that, like, we just don't We don't have enough players like Martinelli with that individual kind of Alexis Sanchez type of vibe. All the best teams have that. They have 1, 2, or 3 players that can win you a game, bring the team's confidence up. And if you have a back line like we have, and you add a couple of midfielders and a striker, I think we're seeing something different. Now, we still may need a manager as well, depending on what you think. But I just can't help but think that, like, we have too many nice players out there, too many people hiding, and we need more Martinelli. So Martinelli can hold his head up high. But let's get to Aubameyang. I just, 4 goals in the league. Can't really say that he hasn't had any chances. I think just to set the stage just a little bit, he is getting less chances. He's always missed sitters, but he would get more chances, so he would still score a goal even though he would miss the sitters. Now he's getting less chances, and he's missing that 1 or 2 chances that he does get. So it looks like it's a combination, in my opinion, of lack of confidence plus less chances equals an Aubameyang that's not firing, maybe a little bit of an age curve as well. And just the way that we play doesn't suit him. That being said, we need a striker in January. I don't think it's fair to put it all on Martinelli. We saw that Balogun is not gonna be around. He'll be on loan potentially, and Ketia is not good enough. So, and Lacazette is not good enough. We need a striker. I think at this point, regardless of how you feel about Aubameyang and how connected you are to him and how good he's been for us in the past, he's not cutting the mustard. Like, he's just not doing enough. And he missed chances today. He can't hold the ball up. He's suffering, and I think with the type of number 10s that we're playing with, the type of front players that we have that are so young, they would really have get a lot of value from a striker that could hold the ball up and nick the ball into space and has a little bit of an attitude about them. I mean, we lack balls. We lack that attitude and that confidence and that arrogance. We don't have it. We've always had attacking players that have that. And right now we just don't have it. So, and Aubameyang's not bringing it to us. Like, he was, I thought in the first half, he kind of more suffered from the team playing shit. But I thought in the second half, he just wasn't doing the business. Like, it was some of the shots that he was taking were so freaking weak. And I'm just like, you got to bury that, man. You have to bury that. The chance that he had from Ben White, you got to bury that. He had another chance where he just kind of scuffed it with his left foot. I'm like, bro, like, come on, you're killing us. And individual brilliance and more quality will change those chances that look like half chances that Aubameyang's getting into goals. Don't get it twisted. Just because it wasn't perfect, like, if you're a better striker, some of the chances that he's been getting go in the back of the net. So for me, Aubameyang was part of the problem today, along with Mr. Thomas Partey. Both of them hang their head in shame. They were both poor against Newcastle, and they were poor again today. So I'm going to give Aubameyang, I gave Thomas a 3. I really could give Thomas a 2. Let me change that. Because I want to give Aubameyang a 2 as well. I give him a 2. He was shit. Go ahead.
Is there a non-ranking one? Because I can't even give him a point today, because honestly, he had opportunity. The thing is, I don't even want to hear he didn't get opportunities. We didn't create anything. He had enough opportunities to score one. He had where Martinelli drove forward. The thing is, you know what? If he didn't score but make better decisions, like for example on the Ben White one, he just squared it off to, let's say, Tavares, and Tavares missed. I would have been like, you know what? That's smart, because from that angle you're not really going to get a goal. So, but you played it off. Martinelli, for example, when he drove in and passed it to Aubameyang, and then he did this weak, right-footed shot straight at De Gea with no real conviction, but he instead played it back to Martinelli. I would have been like, you know what? Fine, you're not scoring goals, but at least you're trying to set the team up to score, which is just as good. But he's not doing neither. He's not setting the team up to score. He's not scoring himself. He's getting opportunities to not score. And the reality is, I think we've just gone beyond Aubameyang. I think he's now, we've outgrown him and the way he plays, and the way that we now play. We need someone who's in the mold of we've always said it, the hybrid of Laka Oba. We need that. We need someone who can really be an aerial threat. Do you know what? I actually think Giroud would be really good. Like, I know it sounds crazy to say, but like if we had a Giroud, I think we score a lot more goals because he's kind of the striker we kind of need. But yeah, no, I can't even rank him. I'm not even giving him a point because I just think he's been awful. At least even as a captain, do the captain stuff, like motivate the players. Just do something. Do you know what? If you told me Aubameyang didn't play, I would believe you because I don't know if he did play. I don't know what he did. He offered us nothing, bar missed those chances. So I'm not even giving him a rating. He gets an NA. He's not even rateable.
Yeah, been saying it since the beginning of the season. We need a striker, and I had this weird feeling that we'd struggle to score goals. Not a weird feeling. I think it was obvious. We have Saka and ESR who aren't really at the top of their game yet, and then Aubameyang. And to me, he's been on a downward slope for a while. And it looked like in the beginning of the season he was coming back, but I don't think he is. And I think it's fine just to say that he's just not that guy anymore. And it's fine. It's fine. Like, I don't know. It's fine, but hopefully the hopefully the club addresses it in January, because even if we don't make top 4 because the other teams are just too good, we need to make the top 6. And don't get it twisted, like not having a striker is going to hurt us. So, and Aubameyang he knows he's going to still start every single week. And that might be a part of it as well, is knowing that his spot is going to be there for him next week. He shouldn't play against Everton, I don't think. I think Martinelli should start up front. I mean, it's wild. But Jazz, thank you so much for your super chat. It says, "Oh, cavemen." So yeah.
Yeah, obviously, I know you've got a new show, but obviously we know there is strong. I'll let that be for the news what them players are, but we are addressing certain positions, and it seems like we're going fully in for them as well. So and they're coming from very reliable people within the club as well. So I think they are trying to work on it, but obviously January is a very difficult window, and we're going to have another Ben White situation where we overpay for a player because we need that player, and that's the player we've identified to be somewhat, I wouldn't say the perfect solution, but the perfect solution from what we can see how we play. So I think we just need to give it time. Obviously, we knew it wasn't all going to be addressed in one window, but oh man, it's got to be Martinelli until we do.
Yeah, Dublin. I've already been on the terrace today. I did my little spiel before I went on here because I'm chilling. Like, I'm disappointed because they were shit, and I'm just like, we could have at least got that point, which is what I thought was the best that we could do with what we got. But we're nowhere near the top 4 to me. Like, we're nowhere near the top. We're nowhere near the best 4 teams in the league. If we were to make top 4, in my opinion, it would be because we played out of our skin and we played way better than we probably are, and a couple of teams were bad the entire season. Our goal has to be to make sure that we make it into Europe, and I still think it's going to be difficult if we don't address some things in January. And maybe there's a little bit of Arteta in there as well. It's hard for me to see where the players' mistakes and Arteta's mistakes, where does the line, where is it? Because when I look at the team, I think you guys are playing the game. So if you guys are missing chances, Arteta can't guide your leg and make you guys kick it in the back of the net. But at the same time, maybe some of the decisions that he made throughout the game influence things a little bit. So yeah, we'll figure that out. But Io says I'd play Eddie against Everton. That's the worst. What's the worst that could happen? I think you have to play Martinelli. You can't play Eddie. Jazz says Saka is overrated. You guys don't let the hype blind you lot. Thank you for your super chat, but that's fundamentally not right. Sorry.
If that's your opinion, you can have
Leonide
that.
is saying I'm being way too negative. I think if this is negative, then I don't know if you know what negative is. I'm literally saying that I'm not tripping, but I maintain that I don't think we're one of the top 4 teams in the league. And I don't think top 4 is ever been on the cards because we have this game in us once every couple of games. And we haven't addressed major issues. You cannot think we're in the top 4 top 4 team with other teams playing well, with Aubameyang as your striker and a dead midfield. There's no way you guys think that.
Do you know this is the third opportunity we've now dropped to get into top four, and we had an opportunity against Brighton, as long as we won that, against Crystal Palace, and now against United. That's the third time this season, and we're only, what is it now, like halfway through the season, and this is the third opportunity that we could have secured, well, not secured, but got into top four with a gap, where we would have leapfrogged West Ham and been 2 points ahead of them, which would have given us a good cushion. Just if they drew another game and we won, that would have also extended the lead. We would have extended the lead against United by, I think it's a 7 points now, because they drew to Chelsea, so that would have been 7 points instead of the 9 that we were hoping to get. So I don't think it's being I think it's being realistic with the way that we are, and I think our mentality is the minute we can take advantage of something, we haven't done it yet. So I can't sit here and say top four when we've now fumbled 3 different opportunities and against different quality of opposition as well. Like, we should be beating Brighton and we should be beating Crystal Palace. With all due respect, like, we should be beating them. Okay, this game, all right, it can go either way, but obviously with the form that United are coming in with, we should be beating them as well. So that's why I've always said I think 5th is the highest we probably finish. And I want top 6 minimum. Otherwise, you've really got to look at something there.
Yeah, we have to be in Europe. Io says top 4 is not made by beating the top teams away, though, Jess. No, I understand that. But I still don't think, I just don't think we're there yet. I just don't. But at the same time, this is not the game that's really making me think that. It's the games against Brighton, it's the games against Crystal Palace, the fact that we don't score enough goals. Like, there's a lot of things going into the pile here, but that's neither here nor there. We're still 1 point off of the top 4, but now we've put ourselves in a situation where Spurs are 1 point behind us and Man United is 2 points behind us. So we put more pressure on ourselves. And we were just in a pressurized situation where we played against a bad Man United side. Had we won that game, we would put 8 points ahead. We've been 8 points ahead of them and in the top 4. Now we have teams chasing us. And you guys don't think that that's going to rattle this team? Y'all don't know this team.
Yo, I don't know why. Do you know, if Arsenal do get top 4, why do we make it hard for ourselves? Just don't get this. It's like we can't do it easy. We just don't want to do it easy. That's saying if we do get it.
And that's the thing. And then that's when it gets into well, is Arteta doing the right things to get their mentalities into it? And he's not leading them. And maybe he doesn't give them enough confidence. I do think that there is a little bit that a coach needs to do in order to get the team going. And maybe he's not doing that. I don't know. I really don't know what it is. I can't tell you.
I think once that midfielder and striker come in, that's the only way I think we get a definitive answer, because the issue is in phases of games and in flashes of the games, he's showing his football. Like, for example, the Odegaard goal, for example, like that was what he wants us to do consistently. And then the issue is what he says in his press conferences and what actually happens in games is totally different. So it's so hard to, because he's saying that he doesn't tell the players to start defending and going into a shell, and he wants them to, and you can see it through his animations, like the way, obviously we don't hear everything, so unless you're like a master lip reader, or if the camera angles are perfectly fine to lip read, you'll probably be able to tell more. But I can see him saying to them, come on, push on the ball now. Like, and they're just not doing it, and they just don't seem to do it. And I think that for me becomes a quality issue, and that's why I'm a bit like, I can't keep blaming Arteta when individual mistakes are being made. And I think that's a harsh thing to do. But when he gets that midfielder and that striker and we still look this bad, then it is, you have to get rid of the manager at that point. There's no excuses left in there.
Yeah. And that's the tough thing. That's the tough thing. But this team is definitely good enough to be in the top 6, in my opinion. We have to be in the top 6. So that's where the line really is drawn. But Jazz says, if this is negative, then get out of a cave. She's not negative. I'm not, you guys. I really am not. Like, have you looked at your phones lately? Have you looked at Twitter? I'm not negative. Some people are jumping out of buildings right now. Jillian K says, hey, Jess, do you expect any business in January considering spending 130 million? Also, do you think Aubameyang needs more support? I think he's better with a strike partner. Thank you so much for your comment and your question. If we don't address something in January, they might there could be a opportunity. There could be a situation where I could see us not finishing in the top 6, because I think some of the insufficiencies, like, in our team are hurting us badly. The midfield and the striker situation. Again, I think some of the chances that we're saying are half chances and not really full chances are actually really good ones, and go and become goals if we have a better striker. Also, if we have somebody that can hold the ball up, we don't have so much pressure on us when we score a goal, because then we can keep the ball a little bit more. All of these things really come into play. And I think, for me, if we don't address something in January, I could easily see us finish in 8th again, because it's just not good enough. It just isn't. A striker needs to come in. We were obviously looking for one in the summer, because we were in for several strikers in the summer. Don't get it twisted. We were, and we didn't get it done. We also wanted to improve our midfield, but Xhaka stayed. So these are issues that we know are here, and the club knows it as well. It's just whether or not they have enough balls to do it before they actually sell the players. That's what it is. In the summer, they decided not to address things because we couldn't sell Lacazette and we couldn't sell Granit Xhaka. At this point, it's buy the players now and worry about getting rid of the other guys later, because you're not even going to have Aubameyang in January. You're not going to have Thomas Partey in January. So what are you going to do? You're going to sit around with no midfield and no strikers at all, and leave it all on Martinelli's shoulders. So we're going to be Martinelli, ESR, Saka score goals all the way throughout the November, or I'm sorry, the festive period? No, I don't think so.
Is it no longer they have to go in December? Because I heard they had to do a 2-week quarantine or something before the AFCON. Or is that no longer the case?
I think they'll just be gone for the whole of January. I'm not sure how far in advance they have to go and all that. But then we have to remember that there'll be some level of needing to get back and be normal again and all that kind of stuff. So if they don't address it, that's shocking. And does Aubameyang need more support? He does play better with somebody near him that could feed him the ball and stuff, like a good number 10 or another secondary striker. Like when him and Lacazette do play well together, it works. But I think more than anything, we need a new striker.
Oh yeah, 100.
Jazz says, thank you so much for your super chat. Says Arsenal need to bring in an Icelandic striker.
I don't know.
I'm not gonna read that. And he is such a sensational young striker and fits perfectly with Martinelli.
I don't even think that's a natural striker. That does not sound like I don't know.
No, I didn't even read it. Banky says Aubameyang is a player who thrives off of mature quality players. Good players need equally good players to perform well. And yes, I agree with you, Jess. Arsenal are nowhere near close to finishing in the top 4. I think, yeah, I don't think we are. And I'm not letting this team off the hook. That's what I've thought since the beginning of the season. I'm surprised we're as close as we are, to be honest. But last but not least, we can give Arteta a rating. I don't think we need to give Saka one. I don't think he really, Saka, we can give him like a 5. Like, he really didn't do much. He had some shots that he probably could have buried, but I don't know. I think a 5 is sufficient. Are you okay with giving Saka a 5?
Well, no, because he had two good opportunities. I'm being so real now, because I'm like, we've got to be, because he's a staple piece within our team now, and I think based on this, I've got to give him maybe a 4, because those 2 chances were good chances. They weren't just like, they were a half chance. It's fine, you can miss them. No, I've got to give him a 4, because I think he was less than average on that.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah.
And the other 2, I don't even know what they did, to be honest. Nketiah and I can't remember what they did.
I think that's what we're going to get on, because I was looking on Twitter to see why people were so upset with Arteta, and essentially, and then, Thierry Henry said something, and then everybody started parroting it, but essentially taking off Aubameyang when we needed a goal and bringing on Nketiah and Lacazette was looked at as a really bad substitution, and then not taking off Thomas Partey. Basically not taking off the entire midfield was something that people were upset about. They felt like Thomas Partey should have been taken out and Odegaard should have been taken out. I think the Odegaard one is hindsight, because you could not have anticipated him giving away that penalty. And had he not, he wouldn't have needed to be subbed out, because without him, we wouldn't have had anybody creating any chances for us. Thomas Partey may be a fair one. Maybe you guys felt like Sambi should have came in. I hear you. I think at halftime, I probably would have subbed him out. I thought he was just horrible. But the last one is interesting because Aubameyang was horrible, but yet and still people feel like he should have stayed on the pitch, and bringing on Eddie Nketiah and Lacazette was a problem. So, like, can you honestly say that you think that leaving Aubameyang on would have been the better option than put somebody else out there? Or do you think that Arteta should have left Aubameyang on because he's the better goal scorer, in those last couple of minutes? What do you think? I think it's one of those where it's like, this is when you need a really good striker waiting in the wings, so you can take Aubameyang out, and the options are not Nketiah and Lacazette. I think the bigger issue is that our only options are those two, and neither of them are good enough. But Aubameyang, essentially, people feel like he should stay on the pitch, even though he was horrible, because maybe he would be better. I don't think any of those options are good. But what do you think?
I'm not going to lie. Like, I know it's going to sound mad disrespectful, but I'm not going to take advice from Henry about substitutions because, I mean, as a manager, he's not been great himself. So I don't know why people take his word. And look, Aubameyang was awful. The thing is, if Aubameyang he scored, let's say, but then he had a bit of a shaky game. He was missing opportunities, but he had a goal there. I would have been like, fine. Or if he was playmaking, or if he was doing something that suggested to you that something can turn around for him. But nothing was happening because the opportunities we were creating are not Aubameyang opportunities. They were more Lacazette-esque opportunities, and we needed energy up top, which is what Nketiah brings. And then obviously we know what Lacazette can do. He can hold up the ball. He can make a lot more things, tick for you. So I think we knew depth's an issue. We knew this from the beginning. Before the season, we knew that we don't really have the quality. Look, we're taking Aubameyang off and we're bringing Lacazette on. It's a change of, it's like a plan A and a plan B in a way. And then obviously we've got Nketiah, which isn't the most rejuvenating. Maybe bringing Pepe on. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know what he could have done, to be honest with you.
I think it's hindsight. I just feel like anybody that did not play was the answer, and then taking off people that were not the answer for the entire game is now the reason why. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. Like, Thierry Henry's probably thinking about it from like, oh, taking off him. I'm sorry. Yeah, taking off Henry, would have been a mistake. But taking off a dead Aubameyang, like, come on. Like, that's just, I get that it's Arteta's fault when we lose, and it's Arteta's win when we win. I get that. When I dissect that game, what I saw was a midfield that decided not to play in the first half, players that lost possession. It's not Arteta's fault that players are not keeping possession on the pitch. I really doubt somebody that grew up in the La Masia setup and played for Arsenal and was a midfielder is telling them to let the ball bounce off their shins and not keep possession. It's really a weird thing for me. What I think is maybe lacking from Arteta is something with the connection from the confidence levels. I do think good managers transmit confidence to their players, and he may set them up really well tactically and give them the tools to win the game in terms of, putting the team out there and having a game plan. But maybe there's just a disconnect with the confidence aspect of what we're trying to do, that cheerleader aspect of what a coach is supposed to do to get their players up for a game. Because when we waited until we went down 2-1 to start actually playing. And I'm trying to figure out why at the beginning of the second half we weren't fired up. I don't know. I don't know where Arteta's in this mess. He's somewhere in it, but I think it's that. I think it's that he doesn't have that.
When he first came in, obviously they had the water breaks due to obviously returning from COVID and everything like that. So they had a few more like in-game breaks just to make sure the players weren't getting like issues basically with their fitness and stuff. And we actually responded very well as soon as a water break took place. So I don't know if it's him not getting players up for the game, because there's evidence to suggest both. There's evidence to suggest that he can get them up, because we start games really well, and we start the start of the second half, we tend to do really well. It's that in between. It's that sort of 20 minutes to the 45 minutes where we're kind of up and down, and we kind of don't really know what we're doing. So at that point, it's like, well, how much of that is the manager's fault? Because all you can do is start you well and you maintaining that, and then it's just relaying information at that point. But I think the issue that we have is, and I was kind of like just deeping it. Do you know when Pep first came into Man City, the reason why he did not as well as what we see him do, and why he did this whole overchange, especially in the midfield? Like, I don't even think he kept a single one of those midfielders, bar David Silva in that setup. He bought in Bernardo Silva, Rodri came in, Fernandinho. He had a gulf of like midfield changes, and I think that's what Arteta now needs to do, is change that midfield to play his system, and that's all it is. Because he bought Partey in, but bar that, he hasn't really bought a senior head in yet, and I don't know. I think it's a weird one, because there's evidence for both, and that's the annoying. Because it's like, you can make arguments for both sides. You can say, well, can you get the players up because after 20 minutes they don't play, but they start the game really well, so whose fault is it? And I don't know. I don't know.
See,
It's the hard
that's
thing.
the thing. I don't think we'll actually really know where Arteta's actually at until he has those, like, they knew Ollie wasn't the man for the job literally the moment that they had pretty much the completed squad and he couldn't get anything out of them. I almost feel like that's what's going to happen with Arteta. If we bring in the midfielder and we bring in a striker and we have all the tools available to us to be a really good team and to compete, really, I feel like at that point you'll know whether or not he's doing a good job, because individual errors are not the manager's fault, but there is something missing. There's a missing connection between the team and their confidence and that level of calm that I feel like maybe he's not transmitting, but I'm not sure why, and so I have a weird feeling about it. But I don't think removing the manager at this point, at one point, like, this is the thing, all you guys that are like, Arteta's the issue and da-da-da-da, he's 1 point off of the top 4. He's not going anywhere. So in the meantime, maybe look at some of the players and put some onus on them, because last time I checked, it's not Arteta's fault that Aubameyang's missing sitters. That is not Arteta's fault,
Odegaard giving penalties away,
yeah, Odegaard giving penalties
Tavares
away.
passing it to Mo Salah to score. There's an abundance, and we've always seen this. There's individual errors, and I think today there was 2 individual errors as well. But the thing is, before that penalty was taken, we were on the ascendancy. So clearly there is something. As soon as we concede, it seems to be, it takes everything out of us, and that for me isn't a manager thing. That's individual mentalities which do need a bit of tweaking and changing. But I feel like once we get that marquee senior leader in there, or even if it's someone that's like maybe 24, 25, but a leader and a presence in that midfield or defense, that's when it changes for me. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, for sure. And this is there's just more questions here. And I get that I'm not sure that he's the right guy for the job. I think this team, because I feel like I'm being realistic, feeling like I think we're top 4, we would have been punching above our weight. Like, if we get into the top 4, it's because several teams played poorly and we got some favorable results and we played out of our skin. That's what I think. But top 6 is well within the realm of what we should be doing with the team that we have, because he should be coaching this team into the top 6. That's what I think. But, if we don't make it, we'll look at it. But at the moment, I can't really sit here and say that I think Arteta was the main issue, when I'm watching this team do stupid shit every single week. Manib says, question, what is the system or style Arteta wants to play, Souls? He has been in charge for 2 years. I can't identify a style. We are apparently a possession-based team, but cannot keep possession.
Okay, so From the way I see it, because obviously I know that question's going to come up any podcast I now go on, because I made a big claim that we're playing a similar style to the way that City want to implement their football, especially Pep City. And the reason why I specify that is because the way they build up is similar to the way we build up. The major differences are, obviously, we don't have a Ruben Diaz, someone who's going to be commanding and experienced enough to really take that role on. Now, when we look at it, in attacking possession anyway, and the way that we build up is in a 3-2-5. We have three sort of defenders sitting back in terms of Tomiyasu, Ben White, and Gabriel usually are the three sitting back. Obviously, what we want to do is have Tomiyasu go forward and have Ben White, Gabriel ideally sitting back, and then having that number 6 come in to play just in front of them, creating a sort of a 2-1-2-1-6 kind of attacking formation where we play it with a wide spread and have sort of the number 10 bombing into the box as well. But that's kind of where I feel like the quality will then determine that. But at the moment, we're building in a 2-3-5 structure where we do wide overloads and we pump the ball in. So we're trying to do, obviously, hit crossbacks, passbacks, but they're just not hitting off the way that we want them to. So at the moment, we're playing with our wing backs to play crosses into the ball instead. And then what happens is, in a defensive structure, we're playing a 4-4-2, which is evident every single time you play them, especially when you go and watch them in the stadium. You can see these structures even better. And I don't think we're so much of a possession. We're a possession-based team that wants to press spaces rather than press man-to-man, which is why I say, like, the way he ultimately wants to play is a hybrid of the way that is Moyes' defensive setup with Pep's attacking setup. And he wants to merge the two, but he doesn't have the gulf of quality that Man City have to be able to pull that off yet. And that's the style that I'm seeing anyway. That's the way I see it. I know a lot of people don't see that, but I think you need to watch games at least two. Because I've said this to people, and people have done this, where they've gone and watched games back and they've gone, actually, yeah, I see exactly what you're now saying. But if you watch it with emotions, you're never going to see it truly for what it is. So I think that's kind of what I need people to do. Firstly, watch the games back again, and you start to see these structures form. And that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yo-Yo says Arteta and Adu have responsibility for going into the season with this midfield. They know better. One of the biggest mistakes that they made was not addressing the midfield. I think if you bring in a star quality midfielder in the summer, that mitigates a lot of the issues. Philip says there's Arteta's players, and he's had more time than any other manager since Arsene left. Not sure if
We've only had one other one,
we've only had one other manager, and he lost the dressing room and was losing games left and right, and Arteta's winning games now. So, are you an Arsenal fan? I'm not sure. Yeah, not sure. How many managers have we had? Like, come on. And Emery was crap. So, I get what you're saying, but like, not really, actually. Yeah. So, let's go ahead and get out of here. I think that's enough toxicity for today. You guys have been okay, and there's been a mix. There's been a mix in here. We welcome everybody, but some of you guys are just like, wow. The overreaction is just too much for me. Gunners, thank you so much for your super chat. Says managing Arsenal is not a piece of cake. Arteta needs time, and good times are coming in the next couple of years. We need a solid cream pie. Will be a solid cream pie. It's just funny to me because before the season started, most people thought we were going to be mid-table. And now because we've touched top 4 and we're like right there, all of a sudden the goalposts have been moved, and we just started this whole recycling of this team and this club. And I don't know why people think it's going to happen so soon, and why these players would be perfect playing with each other for the first time. Like, it's only been a quarter of the season, and we have 6 new players with not a lot of players before that have been playing with each other. So I just feel like ultimately this team needs time. Does the manager need time? I think he needs until the end of the season at the very least, unless he starts really losing games. But we're putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on a group of players that are nowhere near the top 4 and just need to focus on winning the next game. So I'm not going to turn on all of them today and act like everything we've ever done in the last couple of weeks has been a lie. And we're just, because just a couple of days ago, we were all like, wow, we're near 4th, so there you go. Tomorrow we'll be back. I want to dive into some of this, like, individual brilliance plus a system, some of the transfer rumors that are coming out right after the game. We're linked with Calvert-Lewin. Before the game, we're linked with other strikers, and just kind of talk through the game a little bit more. I will rewatch it, and I'm sure I won't feel any better. Of course, I understand that people are upset because we're losing against Manchester United never feels good. So I'm not saying that, you shouldn't be reacting to it. What I am saying is that there's still a chance to do well this season, but the club has to react in January. I think without that, we're out of control. We're out of control. So go on to social media, tell Martinelli he had a good game because he deserves that. He had an amazing game, and let's hope we see more of him. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for everybody who sent in super chats. See you guys later. Bye.